The wheel of time turns. Ages come and pass and repeat in a cycle. People are reborn to live infinite lives again and again throughout the ages. No one remembers their past lives.
How long does it take before the wheel of time turns someone's spirit back into the world again?
Wish I knew, but I'm sure there's a reason no one can remember their previous lives. All we can do is the best we can with the life that's given to us.
The wheel weaves the threads of people, events, and things into the great pattern of the ages, which makes up all of existence. 3,000 years ago, in what some would call the Second Age or the Age of Legends, this man, who was called the Dragon, attempted to imprison the Dark One to save the world, and it didn't go very well. The prison was sealed, but the male half of the One Power was corrupted, which led to the breaking of the world and the collapse of an advanced civilization. The dragon went mad and killed those closest to him before his death. Prophecies claim that in the world's greatest hour of need, the dragon would be reborn to once again face the Dark One, but this time the entire pattern could unravel, causing the end of existence, and the Dark One could break the wheel and the cycle of rebirth for everyone. 3,000 years later, in what's called the Third Age by some, the scars of the breaking are still visible and the world is still recovering, but the truth of what happened in the past has faded to myth and legend. The male half of the One Power, saidin, continues to corrupt those unlucky men who can channel it, leading to madness, destruction, and death. If unchecked, these men could again break the world. And so, the Aes Sedai, women who can channel the female half of the One Power, women who are trained in the White Tower, in the great city of Tar Valon, seek to keep the peace, to preserve knowledge, and to protect the world from the men who would destroy it with the One Power. The Aes Sedai are divided into 7 Ajahs and are led by a woman called the Amyrlin Seat, who sits on a throne of the same name and is considered to be the most powerful person in the world. She is the Watcher of the Seals and the Flame of Tar Valon.
Is that the Amyrlin Seat itself? Isn't that confusing? To have the woman in the throne name the same thing?
The current Amyrlin is Siuan Sanche, who came from humble beginnings as a fisherman's daughter and rose to great political power in Tar Valon. This is Moiraine. She's an Aes Sedai of the Blue Ajah, who channels Saidar, the female half of the One Power. 20 years ago, Moiraine overheard a prophecy from an old blind Aes Sedai, who said that the dragon was reborn. On that same day, just outside of the city, a battle was taking place between a group of savage warriors called the Aiel and an alliance of several nations who were trying to send the Aiel back to their lands in the east. During that battle, a pregnant Aiel woman sought refuge on the snowy slopes of a nearby mountain. At the same time, a man named Tam Althor, who fought against the Aiel as a highly ranked soldier for the Illianer army, sought to escape the heat of battle on the same mountain. This is Dragon Mount. The Aiel veil their faces when they kill. Her face was not veiled when she was attacked, but the woman defended herself against the Illianer soldiers as she was going into labor. Tam Althor arrived, removed his helmet to show that he was not a threat, and then he helped her to deliver the baby. She died giving birth on the slopes of the mountain. The Aiel War ended shortly after this battle near Tar Valon, and the Aiel went home. Tam Althor and his wife Kari named this new baby Rand and brought him to the Two Rivers, where Rand was raised as a farmer and herder of sheep. Kari died when Rand was very young. Tam never told Rand about his true parentage. As Siuan rose to power in the White Tower, Moiraine searched far and wide to fulfill her mission to find the Dragon Reborn. She met a man named Lan Mandragoran and bonded him as her warder. Lan joined Moiraine on her quest to find the Dragon Reborn. Lan was an uncrowned king of a country called Malkier, a place far to the north in the Borderlands. When Lan was a baby, Malkier was overtaken by the corrupted land called the Great Blight, where the Dark One's power was strongest. In the show, Moiraine didn't know if the dragon would be reborn as a boy or a girl. Their search led them all across the continent.
From Tyr to the Two Rivers, and many towns between.
And they found many possible candidates, but never someone who met the exact age or circumstances they were looking for. Eventually, Moiraine and Lan were led to a little backwater village in the Two Rivers, where they found not 1, but 4 young people who matched the age of the Dragon Reborn. Egwene Alvir, the innkeeper's daughter, recently had her hair braided to signify that she had become a woman. Perrin Aybara, the village blacksmith, was having some marital struggles with his wife, Layla. Matt Cauthon, the village prankster and gambler, was always down on his luck, but sought what was best for his young sisters, no matter the cost. And Rand al'Thor, the sheep herder with a heart of gold, lived with his father Tam on a farm just outside of the village. Rand and Egwene were promised to be married, but Egwene had other plans. Moiraine also discovered another young woman who was slightly older than the others, but showed great potential. Nynaeve Almira, the village wisdom, or healer, led the women's circle and was training Egwene to become a wisdom. Both of them could listen to the wind. A traveling merchant or peddler called Padan Fain arrived in the Two Rivers around the same time as Moiraine and Lan. Trollocs and Fades, minions of the Dark One called Shadowspawn, attacked the village on a night of celebration and nearly destroyed the Two Rivers. Nynaeve was presumed dead. Padan Fain fled the scene. Moiraine was injured during the battle. Perrin, in the heat of battle, accidentally killed his wife with an axe. Rand and Tam were attacked at their farm outside of the village. Tam pulled a heron-marked blade out from under his bed and fought a Trolloc, but it injured him before Rand killed it. Rand and Tam then spent the rest of the night trying to get back to the village. Tam was delirious with a fever and kept saying things to Rand about finding a baby in the snow. The next morning, Moiraine healed Tam of his wounds, and then she told the 4 young villagers that one of them was the prophesied Dragon Reborn, and that they would need to come with her to save their village. They left the Two Rivers behind and began their journey to Tar Valon to meet the Amyrlin Seat. The young villagers began having strange dreams of a figure with glowing eyes and a mouth of fire that haunted them in their sleep. Egwene showed potential with the One Power as Moiraine began to mentor her and teach her about the unbreakable Aes Sedai oaths. Rand showed unease and frustration with Egwene and Moiraine. Matt was snarky.
The lady does shoot fireballs, so let's try it and stay on the good side.
Perrin was understandably devastated by the death of his wife, but he also seemed to have a strange connection to wolves. The group also ran into some soldiers who called themselves the Children of the Light. One of them, a questioner named Valda, prided himself on capturing and burning Aes Sedai like witches. Moiraine managed to expertly mislead without outright lying to get away from Valda and his White Cloaks. She said she was a lady from a fallen house, which must be true because she cannot lie. With Shadowspawn hot on their trail and Moraine's injury growing worse, they made camp in an abandoned ancient city called Shadowlogoth, a place so corrupted by some unknown evil that even Shadowspawn would not enter the city. While there, Matt was led by a mysterious shadowy figure to find a strange ruby-hilted dagger. A creepy dark entity called Mashadar attacked the group, causing them to be separated as they fled the city. Rand and Matt decided to head towards Tar Valon and got caught up with some strange folks along the way. They met a server named Dana who turned out to be a Dark Friend or follower of the Dark One. She tried to keep them in custody for the Fade, but Rand showed a strange burst of strength and broke down a door. Later we learned that Rand channeled the One Power for his first time in this moment. Dana took Rand's father's sword and tried to stop them, but they were saved by a traveling gleeman, or performer, named Tom Amyrlin. Before Tom killed her, Dana claimed that she saw all 5 of them in her dreams, and that one of them was the dragon. She seemed to think that the dragon could be the Dark One's hero, who could free the world of the endless cycle of rebirth and suffering. She wanted to be like someone named Ishamael, who she said turned the dragon over to the Dark One 3,000 years ago. Later, Matt was exhibiting strange signs of sickness. Tom claimed he'd seen these symptoms before, when his nephew, Owen, discovered he could channel. His nephew was gentled by the Aes Sedai, permanently cut off from using the One Power. Owen took his own life shortly after. Tom told Rand that Matt had all the signs of a corrupted male channeler. Rand and Tom discovered the dead family of a farmer who had taken them in. At first they assumed that Matt had killed the family, but then Tom fought a Fade while Rand and Matt escaped, eventually making it to Tar Valon 1 month later. Meanwhile, Egwene and Perrin fled the city of Shadowlogoth and found themselves lost in a desolate wilderness where they were being hunted or possibly guided by wolves. They eventually found a group of traveling people called the Tuatha'an who took them in. They taught Perrin of a pacifist ideology called the Way of the Leaf, and a young man named Aram told Egwene that they were searching for something called the Song. Perrin and Egwene were discovered by the White Cloaks and taken prisoner. Eamon Valda, convinced that Egwene was an Aes Sedai, began to torture Perrin in an attempt to coax a confession from Egwene. She managed to channel enough to free Perrin from his bonds, and then Perrin's eyes went golden yellow as he went into another rage. Wolves attacked the camp at the same time, allowing Egwene and Perrin to escape. They eventually made their way to Tar Valon as well. Just after Moiraine and Lan exited Shadowlogoth, Nynaeve, who wasn't dead after all, found them outside of the corrupted city and threatened to kill Lan if he didn't take her to her friends. He told her they were separated and that Moiraine needed medical attention. Nynaeve was able to help Moiraine with her healing herbs and ointments until they found a group of Aes Sedai who had recently captured Logain Ablar, the false dragon. In the Aes Sedai camp, Moiraine was healed, and Nynaeve learned that not all Aes Sedai are the same. The different factions or Ajahs seem to have different goals and motives. Liandrin of the Red Ajah seemed to have a strong dislike of men and tried to befriend Nynaeve. Logain's followers attempted to free him, and during the battle, Logain broke from a shield and managed to kill Kyrene, the Aes Sedai of the Green Ajah who was leading the camp. Stepan, Kyrene's warder, felt her death through the bond and went into a rage, which nearly got everyone killed when Logain again broke free of his shield. Logain was finally stopped by Nynaeve, who channeled a massive burst of the One Power and healed the Aes Sedai and warders who were injured. Logain was so shocked by Nynaeve's display of power that the Aes Sedai had time to link together and they gentled him on the spot. 1 month later, all of the groups were somewhere in Tar Valon. Moiraine and Lan returned to the White Tower along with Nynaeve, Logain, Stepan, and the remaining Aes Sedai and warders. Rand and Mat were being followed by Pat and Fane. They found an inn in the city that was recommended to them by Tom before they were separated. Mat's sickness was growing worse, and Rand, while searching for the prophecies of the dragon in the inn library, met an odd creature by the name of Loial, who said he was an Ogier. Loial thought that Rand was one of the Aiel.
An Aielman from the Two Rivers?
I'm not an Aielman.
An Aielman from the Two Rivers who insists that he is not an Aielman. That is very odd. I like oddities.
Rand and Mat saw Logain being paraded through the streets, and Logain seemed to recognize something in the young men as he passed. Or perhaps Mat or Rand were just seeing things. Nynaeve was given some hints by Liandrin about her friends in the city. Meanwhile, Moraine's eyes and ears, or spies, tipped her off to Perrin and Egwene's location and to Rand and Mat. Moiraine used the One Power to somehow remove the evil that had infected Mat, and she returned it to the cursed dagger of Shadowlogoth. Moiraine kept the groups from each other while she dealt with politics in the White Tower. In public, Moiraine was brought before the Amyrlin Seat and scolded for refusing to say what her true mission was. In private, Moiraine and Siuan were able to reconnect.
On your knees.
Nobody else knew about Moraine's and Siuan's relationship or their shared mission. Moiraine told Siuan that she had found the Dragon Reborn, but that she wasn't sure which of the young villagers was the dragon. Siuan told Moiraine that she had a dream that the Dark One was weakened, and that the dragon needed to go to a place called the Eye of the World, far to the north, somewhere deep in the Blight, to face the Dark One. The leader of the Blue Ajah, a sister named Maigon, said she was leaving the tower to investigate ships that were disappearing out west. She wanted Moiraine to stay in the tower to support the Blues. Moiraine and Siuan both knew that her mission to get the Dragon Reborn to the Eye of the World was more important than the Blue Ajah's waning political power. They devised a plan to have Moiraine banished from the White Tower. To prove that it was serious, Siuan made Moiraine swear an unbreakable oath of fealty on the oath rod in front of the hall of the tower. Moiraine changed the wording of the oath and swore not to return until Siuan Sanche, not the Amyrlin Seat, called her home. Moiraine and Lan recruited Loial to help, and then reunited the group at a waygate outside of the city. The ways allowed them to travel hundreds of miles on foot in a very short period of time. As they entered the ways, Mat chickened out and opted to stay behind. Loial claimed that they could not channel to reopen the ways without alerting a soul-eating entity called the Black Wind to their presence. So they left Mat behind and followed Loial through the ways with the intent to exit near the Eye of the World. While resting, the group was attacked by a Trolloc, and both Egwene and Rand channeled the One Power to defend themselves. The Black Wind was alerted to their presence and chased them through the ways. Pat and Fane was seen following them. The group rushed to the nearest waygate exit. The Black Wind whispered into the group's minds, in their own voices, telling them their deepest insecurities and fears. The Black Wind told Rand that he knew deep down that he was the Dragon Reborn. Nynaeve was able to hold off the wind while Moiraine opened the waygate. They exited at a place called Faldara, just south of the Great Blight and their intended destination. In Faldara, they met Lord Agomar and his sister, the Lady Amalisa. They also met a barkeep named Min, who could see glimpses of the future as auras and images around people. Min later confirmed Rand's growing suspicions that he was the Dragon Reborn. She told him that when she was a little girl, she had her first viewing. She saw a man in the streets of Tar Valon 20 years earlier who had the same heron-marked sword that Rand was carrying. She saw him help an Aiel woman give birth to an impossible child, and then she saw the man raise that child in the Two Rivers. Rand told Moiraine that he was the Dragon Reborn. They left the city and their friends behind and entered the Blight to find the Eye of the World. While there, the man with fiery eyes appeared to Rand in a dream and taunted him, calling Rand by his ancient name, Lews Therin. The man told Rand that the dragon had failed in the past to stop the Dark One, and that he would fail again. Moiraine gave Rand a statuette called the Sa Angreal, which she said contained the power of thousands of male channelers. She said that Rand would know what to do when the time came. Meanwhile, an army of Shadowspawn was gathering outside of Faldara to the north, at a narrow canyon called Tarwin's Gap. Fearing that the prophesied last battle was upon them, Agomar and Amalisa gathered everyone they could to fight. The men went to fight at the Gap, and Amalisa found 4 other women in the city who could channel the One Power, including Nynaeve and Egwene. The remaining citizens, including Min, fled the city. A few remaining soldiers stayed behind to dig up an ancient relic called the Horn of Valir, which was said to be needed at the last battle. The horn was hidden beneath the throne in Faldara. Padan Fain and 2 Fades entered the city, stole the horn, and left Loial severely wounded by the corrupted dagger from Shadar Logoth that we previously saw with Mat. Padan Fain told Perrin that this is just the beginning, and that he, Mat, Rand, Nynaeve, and Egwene were all ta'veren, focal points of the pattern that still had an important part to play. Padan Fain claimed that balance was necessary, and that some or all of them would turn to the dark before the end. Then we were shown a brief scene of Mat, looking sicker than ever, walking through the dark streets of Tar Valon. Rand and Moiraine found the Eye of the World in the Blight, where Rand remembered facing the Dark One in his past life. Rand was pulled into a fantasy-like dream, where he and Egwene were happily married in the Two Rivers, with a daughter named Joya. The Dark One said that Rand had the power to make this dream into a reality. Meanwhile, back at the Eye, Moiraine was also visited by the man. He used what looked like a non-corrupted version of the One Power to either shield her from the One Power, which is like a temporary block, or he possibly stilled her, which is much more severe and permanently severs her access to the One Power, just like when Loghain was gentled. Moiraine threatened to kill Rand rather than allow the Dark One to influence him, but the man told her that Rand was channeling in that moment, and that Moiraine couldn't stop him because she didn't know if Rand was going to break the Dark One's chains or strengthen them. In the dream, Rand realized that while it might be his fantasy, it was not in line with what Egwene wanted, and so he channeled through the Sa Angreal at the man. Rand blasted the man with the One Power, which cracked a seal on the ground. Just as the man disappeared, he smiled, as if this is what he wanted Rand to do the whole time. Back in Faldara, Egwene and Nynaeve linked with Amalisa and the other women. They managed to destroy the Trolloc army, but Amalisa was so overwhelmed by the amount of the One Power that she was channeling, she couldn't stop drawing in more of the One Power, and she eventually burned herself and 2 of the other women out, killing themselves in the process. Egwene somehow managed to heal Nynaeve from her burnout wounds. Back at the Eye, Rand told Moiraine to tell his friends that he died. Moiraine said she could not lie, but Rand was sure that she would find a way to tell them. Rand left the Blight alone. Lan tracked Moiraine and found her at the Eye. They discussed the seal on the ground and how it shouldn't have been able to crack like it did because it was made of Quendiar, or Heartstone, which is supposedly unbreakable even with the One Power. Then Moiraine said
that this wasn't the last battle. I fear it was the first.
The season ended with an epilogue scene way out to the west of the continent, where we saw strange ships with oddly dressed people who appeared to be able to channel the One Power. They caused a massive wave to build up, because apparently they really hated this one girl on the beach. And now you're all caught up and ready for Season 2. Please like this video, and for more in-depth episode recaps and breakdowns, as well as spoiler-free Season 2 episode breakdowns, please remember to subscribe to Unraveling the Pattern. Thanks for watching. Let the dragon ride again on the winds of Prime.